All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. I'm here with El Capitan, Mr. Andy Full. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbrett. Uh, been a hectic few weeks, Andy, but we're back
Yeah,
again for another live show.
it never ends. It's summertime. Everyone's busy. We're busy catching fish. But I do want to say something real fast about my X2 batteries. I have literally put those things through the ringer this year, and they're always charging about 2.5 hours once I get off the water and I plug them back in. And that's if I'm on the water for like 9 hours, 10 hours, and I'm running all the blue top AGMs, and they're incredible. So
Yeah,
just
I mean,
selfless plug.
from a guide perspective, because you've been guiding for the past 20 something days straight, basically.
I've had 6 days off since April 28th.
Okay, yeah. See, so
Yeah.
that's a nice ease of mind
Yeah.
of plug these in. These babies are ready to rip tomorrow, and you probably could go a few days honestly without even
Yeah,
charging. But
I think if I didn't charge them for like overnight one night, I'd probably be good for a solid 10 hours the second day.
yeah,
So,
well, you probably say the same for our guest today, who's been burning the candle this past few days with being the longest days of the year and
ugh,
he's up in Candyland. So I'm sure you can say the same thing about camping and with the batteries and all that jazz. But good times to be running, actually batteries that are quality. Which some
absolutely.
exciting stuff come from X2. We can't really dispose of any of that, but it's some exciting times. But today, something cool that we did. I don't know if anybody saw on social. It is the National Sunglasses Day. I'm sure you guys saw it from everyone else and their mother who works
Yes.
with a sunglass company. But if you guys are looking to get a pair of sunglasses, Hobie is doing a buy one get one 50% off deal today. Feel free to go down link in bio. It's only today, so if you're on live right now, it literally ends in 4 hours. Link down in the bio if you guys want to go take advantage of it, and we have a discount code so you can save even more money.
Yeah, we messed up there. We should have wore sunglasses on the stream.
No, we would have looked high. We would have looked like high or drunk or something. Hunter would be like, these guys are a bunch of jokers. I'm out of here.
Whatever.
He knows we're already jokers.
Let's try and have fun with it. All right. Like, perfect.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, I can't wait to show you guys this. Obviously, we have a great guest for today. Not a stranger to the show.
Becoming
Mr.
a
Hunter
freaking
Shryock's coming
flyer.
on here.
Yeah.
But before we get Hunter on, we're talking about dock fishing today. Something I think I enjoy doing, but for whatever reason, I have something against doing.
You have
it
a
in the tournament.
vendetta against doing it in a
I don't know
tournament.
what it is. But
You
I
just
did
want to
fish
get
some
yelled
docks.
at. I know what it is. You don't want to get yelled at by somebody who walks down the dock because there's always that one guy every day, and you're like me, and it pisses me off that I like spin.
Oh, I'm not afraid of that because
no, but then you have to deal with it, and then you're like, "What a freaking asshole!" Like, pardon my French, for the next 40 minutes, and you just keep resonating and thinking about it. So,
nah, see, I just skip under the dock while he's yelling at me, so I'm not worried about him yelling at me, that sort of thing. Whereas I know you and Hunter are much nicer people than I am. Where I had a situation this past weekend, so I'm trying to get at. I fished some docks.
I saw the reel.
Yeah, I mean, I think 100,000 people have seen the reel at this point, which I am astounded by the amount of people that are like saying I'm a jerk for fishing docks, which is obviously you can tell those people don't fish. But it was one of the things where this guy came out and was obviously there have been people prior to me that weren't very nice or weren't very polite around his dock and his belongings, and took it out on me. And I feel like I handled it very calmly, but it was certainly an interesting deal. But we're gonna be talking about that, and I'm sure there might be some stories that Hunter has here about fishing some docks and the people he's run into. So I think without further ado, well, let's get him on here, Mr. Hunter Shryock. What's going on?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on again.
I took the sunglasses off.
I took the sunglasses off. I was all primed up when you mentioned it, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it.
Nah, too much. Looked like the Zach Galifianakis from The Hangover.
Right, just chilling out here.
Dude,
no, it's good to be back.
I think one thing you're associated with is the grinder, a guy who loves to flip, whether it's laydowns, docks, whatever. You love to pick up a Berkeley Maxent creature hog and go to work type of deal. Dude, you have to. I mean, we saw the freaking performance you put on at Murray. That was sick. You have to have some stories of running some docks with some very unpleasant folk.
Well, I absolutely. Who hasn't, right? If you fish long enough, and we've all fished docks, it always, and what I've come to learn is like, if it's in practice, I just try to avoid the situation because it's just like Andy was saying, like, it's not worth me being upset over. So I'll go around that dock and go to the next one because more than likely it's not the only dock. You know what I mean? So it's like I see someone and they're like, I just kind of give them their room, give them, you know the scenario and how it can turn. And so I'm just like, it isn't worth it. Now, if it's in a tournament, that's a different story. I'm gonna slide up there and get some of that apple pie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, like I just try to avoid dock or the dock that someone's sitting on or whatever. So, when you were just talking about your story with the docks, and from Murray, we literally had me and my camera guy, Brandon, had some of the, like literally probably 7 or 8 places that I'd rotate through every day. And we all had them named. It was like statues. There was the mermaid dock. There was Terry, the tree troll. And
Yeah.
like,
Terry.
Fisherman Bob's dock. And so the mermaid dock, this was pretty good. Like every single day I caught a giant off or a 4+ pounder off of every day. And every day this lady was laying out on her dock and sometimes she would be, flat down without a top on, but I mean, she's covered up, but it's just like completely. And there I am, like knowing that this dock is very good. And I'm this guy that's like being a creeper. You know what I mean? What are the
howdy
odds?
doody?
Yeah. Just like, and I'm not talking like she would sunbathe for an hour or 2. I'm talking from like 9 a.m. until 1. Because I'd come back and hit that dock, 2 or 3 times in a day because there's a school on it. And this poor lady's out there, and here I come with a camera guy and camera boats behind me. And I skip my wacky worm up under there, my little general. And then I hook one. I'm bouncing off her dock, and she's over there sunbathing. Her husband's up on the porch, like hollering, like, yeah. And I'm just like, what is going on? And dude, it was every day she was out there sunbathing. And I'm just like, God bless her. I hope she has some sunscreen on or something because she's going to toast.
That's insane.
The mermaid dock.
Other skin.
No, 100%. So that's the same dock that I ended up losing. I ended up losing like a 5.5, 6 pounder on. And I don't think she was there at the time. And I think that's probably why I lost it.
Oh, she was good luck. That's what you're saying.
Good luck.
So weird.
It goes back. It's because of you. Because of you, I lost this fish.
Then we had, Fisherman Bob. He was on the other point and on his dock, and I didn't catch him off his dock. I had to go around it. And like 2 days in a row, he'd have like 5 poles catfishing strung all the way out. And he'd see me coming. And he'd start reeling them all in. Come on around. You're good. Super nice.
Awesome.
But it was just like, what are the odds of that? Yeah. He would have them like 70 yards out every direction. Like, I'm like, you ain't got to reel them in. You're going to be winded by the time you get them in.
That's super cool. See, that's cool though. Like, I love homeowners like that. Like guys that are like, hey, you catching anything? Yeah. I don't mind talking to those people,
Right. They get it.
There are some people, man. Like
the
in a
one
tournament,
we had
I think the only
year.
docks I'll avoid are like if there's kids fishing off of them. I'll make a concerted effort to go way
people
around.
People are fishing off of them. Yeah, you give them their space, 100%.
Yeah, this guy had. It was the funny part was one of my buddy's comments when I put it on Instagram was this guy was like, I had my fish finder ripped off twice, and the guy quoted him in the comment and goes, Bailey with 2 fish finders on his kayak. And it was like, it's like, I think we found the culprit.
I don't understand how you get your fish finders ripped off. Like,
I guess so. I think he was trying to say,
was he talking like the transducers? Oh, well, yeah.
I think that's what he meant.
I guess if you left your, whatever hanging out on your dock. I mean, that's like leaving your, boat up by your mailbox and expecting something not to happen to it.
Yeah. leaving your
I'm
rods
not
on the
gonna-
deck, just on the sidewalk.
Yeah, like somebody's gonna see it and come back and get it at night. I'm sure.
It was an
Unreal.
interesting thing, but like, I mean, the guy wasn't that bad. He definitely let me have it very like unnecessarily, but
Yeah.
some people in the comments though were letting me have it. Like these damn fishermen,
And
you
they-
know, private
they
it's
know.
private property, and I'm like, I don't think you guys know how this works, but I'll
Yeah.
just let you be.
Yeah.
But dude, we
We
talk
know
about
where that one's going.
yeah. I leave those alone, and I let other
Yeah, and
people
you're
in the
not.
comments
Yeah,
handle
you're not
that.
even gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even worth arguing with the people. That's what the point that I get. Unless it's like one of those things that it's like deliberate and you know can't avoid it. But if I can avoid it, I try to.
Yeah, I
It's just
usually leave
not-
all the comments down there unless like someone's putting like something explicitly bad, then I'll delete that and usually block the person. But
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I
you
was
don't
just
need
talking
that
about the docs. Yeah.
on there. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Just delete
Not the
people
comments.
from
I was
the
just talking.
delete.
Yeah. Delete. Yeah. You're
delete
blocked.
the docs.
Sorry, sir. You don't see me. You're blocked.
You're blocked. There you go.
Sir, you're blocked right now. I can't hear you. You're
Yeah.
muted.
Yeah. So before, because obviously the premise of today's show, people see it clicking on the video, and we want to talk dock fishing because a lot of people think, you just take a wacky rig and any dock on the lake, you just skip it, and that's all there is to it. Which I think if you go and you hit every dock on a lake with a wacky rig, you're going to catch a lot of fish. But there's a lot more, to break down beyond that. But before we get into that, I'm kind of curious from your talking about your Murray experience, your tanning lady dock. Why do you think that mermaid dock? Sorry, excuse me.
He's stuck on the lady.
Why did you think that dock reloaded as often as it did?
So the way that deal set up, what I feel like it was all that blueback herring spawn was going on. It was right next to the mouth of a pocket, basically. So it was the first point, or main lake point right out from a major pocket. So you got, that shad spawn going on, herring spawn, and then the sun would get up and some of those fish would transition up to that dock that was closest to that point where the herring stuff was going on, and so that's why there would be I felt like there was a continuous group that would continue to be there. Now you think you could just run that pattern all over the lake, and I'm sure you could to an extent, but there was a lot of docks that didn't have them either, and it's like, I didn't really figure that deal out until the tournament. Like I caught some fish off docks, but it wasn't like I'm going to set the world on fire by doing it. And so I feel like throughout the day, those fish like literally would just be in wolf packs and they would congregate under those docks, but the sun had to be high really for those fish to get up there. Some would still be there in the morning, but I think a lot of them would be roaming around and then, 20 or 30% slide up under those docks. And,
Right.
Everybody's fishing that herring point but nobody's really, I literally fished around nobody the entire event. I had one person fish the stretch that I fished, and they only fished maybe 200 yards of it and left. And so, it was a pretty unique deal. But like I said, it wasn't everywhere. It just had a lot to do with that blueback herring spawn.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I wish I knew a little bit more about the herring spawn because I've never done it before when it's in the full swing, at a place like that. But looking back, like how I caught them on the Chapo day one, it was slick, calm, sunny, and you'd think this is the worst possible conditions to throw a topwater. And the funny thing was I found that place the last day of practice, and it was around 9:30, 10 o'clock. It was like every little stretch of riprap, I'd get a blow up. And I could tell they were good ones. So day one of the tournament, I'm like, I'm going to start there. It's going to be fire. Like I'm going to start, shad spawn, whatever. I fish for 30 minutes, don't get a bite. And I'm like, what is literally I'm just here, the day before. Where are they at? So I leave, I go sight fishing for 10 pounds. And at this point, I'm like, should I go back to that stretch at 9:30 or whatever? Or do I keep catching these sight fish that other guys are plucking off? You know what I mean? So it's like one of those deals. It's like, am I going to go waste an hour when I could have missed a 4-pounder that someone else catches? because they're all picking them up like Easter eggs. And so I end up running back over, and I think I got there at like 9:30 or 10. And I think by like 11:30, I think it was like an hour. I think I had 22 pounds, like that. And it was all the same stuff that I fished on in the morning, and they all ate the Chapo. Every single, just bop, 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 bop. And I fished like new stuff and never caught a fish off the dock, really. I guess I did catch one on top water, but I was just going around the docks, fishing that Chapo. And so, like I said, I wish I kind of knew how that transpired, because that bite dwindled and the dock bite obviously picked up, but guys caught him cranking in that event. And it's like, if I would have had that little piece of the puzzle, you know what I mean? There were certain pieces of the puzzle that I didn't have, but I had a lot of the right ones. I was just missing a few just to get some kicker fish later throughout that event.
Right. I don't. So if folks haven't yet, I encourage you to. There's the YouTube link in the show description. If you guys have not seen Hunter's Lake Murray video, highly encourage you to, because dude, you dropped some dang biggins. Not to bring up some scars, but like,
no,
and it was crazy how
event.
It was crazy how shallow you were. Like your boat was like, you probably could have touched the bank with your rod
half the time. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot like fishing New York. I mean, both you guys are right up there in the thick of it. You understand how it is and how those fish get. You'd think there's no way a bass is possibly going to be there. And you might be on a flat for a quarter mile, and there'd be a little spot of shade, and you throw up there, and there'll be a 4-pound largemouth. Yeah, every time. And that's what it kind of felt like to me. As that sun would get up, they would just use those shade lines. It didn't matter if there was this much water. If that's where they were kind of hanging out, there would be one or two, and there was like big ones. And I'm talking 7 to 8 pounders. I'm not lying. I mean, I caught that 7 the last day, and there was probably 3 or 4 that I would see every day. Like that would be their stretch. And within 30 feet of that waypoint, that's where they were at. They would not bite. But I mean, and then obviously in between that was 3 to 4 pounders everywhere. I mean, it's not me. It was Lake Murray. This place is phenomenal.
Was it Terry you were saying was the one on a bed that was like a giant that you said you couldn't
Terry
get to bite?
the tree troll was the one. It was, so we had the mermaid dock, okay, and then the point, and I never caught one off the point. And right around the corner was a shade tree, and I'm talking, it was 12 to 16 inches of water that shade line would be in. That's it. And every day I'd throw up there. Then the shade line was like wide, and so you couldn't like make a pinpoint cast. But you'd think one of those times, I'd seen her from day one. One of those times, and there would be like 1 or 2 fish there every day, and but she would swim out every time I'd get up there and make a cast, and I'd start to creep up there. Here she come, just under the boat or just swim off. She's 4 to 5 pounds. It's just like, what do you do? And you're never going to get those fish to bite, I don't think. Yeah. It's just you're able to see them visually. And
that scene in your YouTube video was so, I started laughing from it because you pull up with your Marshall and you're like, oh, there's Terry. I told you, she's right there. Like, I think she bit. And the next thing it's like you back fishing docks again. Like you just like left.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not messing with it.
Dude, yeah. And then like the final day, I caught that big one and literally had one of those like 6 to 7 plus pounders. And I pitched my general out there, and I'm like, I know it's not going to bite, and it literally nosed down to it. And then I kind of just shook the rod, and she swam off. And I'm like, I wonder if I wouldn't have shook the rod if she would have ate it. Like, I don't know. What do you do? There's a lot of things you look back on.
I've seen this before.
Yeah.
It's wiggling. Don't eat it.
Oh, yeah. Unreal.
So before we get into some like nitty gritty stuff, dock wise, you brought up general real fast. Mr. Higgs has a question. What are your favorite general colors for a Texas rig or wacky?
Super simple. I mean, if I'm like down in Florida, black and blue, obviously. But other than that, it's baby bass or green pumpkin. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be green pumpkin. Like, super simple.
So when do you go to baby bass over green pumpkin?
I mean, I've like someplace like New York, or Murray. The way Murray was super clear, but I caught him on green pumpkin initially, so I wasn't going to change it.
Mhm.
But some place like New York is really good for a baby bass, just because everything's more of that lighter color to an extent. They also have that green pumpkin watermelon, which is like one of my favorites in Creature Hog. And
Yes.
I don't, dude, I can't hardly even get them. And that's
What?
like one of my favorite. Yeah, I know.
Brad needs
It's
to
hard
do
to
this
get.
stuff in
It's
gear.
hard to get a hold of those ones for real.
Old B.
But it's a really good color. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters, right? I mean, if you skip up under there, they're more than likely going to eat it or not eat it.
Mhm.
And that's what I kind of seen throughout the week. Like, you just had to get it in there in the right place. And you had to make that presentation. You know, if you skipped it on top of them, like, I feel like that would kind of spook them too. Like, everything had to be right. Unless there was like a wolf pack. If it was like single fish, I think those were the toughest ones to get to bite.
We have David Jong here from Angler's Channel, and he's asking power bait or max scent.
I prefer max scent if I'm throwing a wacky worm, but like if I'm pegging it like Texas rigged or something, I feel like the color is going to make a difference. I have no, I don't care because if it's max scent or not. I'll throw the power bait. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm throwing a wacky rig, I'm throwing max scent for sure.
Skip's like an absolute dream.
Yeah.
For max scent one. All right, so dock fishing. I mean, people look at it like our lakes here in New York, you know full well. I mean, you've been around the country. You've seen lakes that are just bowls, and all they have to them are docks around the entirety of the lake. And obviously, somebody can just put the trolling motor and go fish every single dock, not think much of it. But like before you even put the boat in the water, say like you're looking at a map. Does mapping have anything to do contour wise, depth wise, to do with any stretch of docks that you'll go and try?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it depends on the time of the year, right? Like seasonally, beginning of the year, you're going to start looking in the backs of the pockets or the little secondary points leading into a pocket, stuff like that. Because I think it does make a big difference. Going back to like that Murray dock, those special docks seem to set up in certain places, which we all kind of see. The biggest thing is figuring out that week that you're fishing or that day or whatever, okay, where are they going to be at? And you try to eliminate as much as you can because nobody wants to go fish, 9,000 docks. So you start to see, and you test them, and there's no like guaranteed in bass fishing. There's no absolute. Like I always used to think like, oh, they're not in the backs of the pockets, so they're never going to be there. Well, they get there in the summer. You know what I mean? That can happen.
Right.
But if you know that you run 8 pockets and you only got bit off of 1, you probably don't need to waste your time. Not saying you can't get bit doing it, but maybe stick to the main lake, stuff like that. So like with Murray, that was my deal was I felt like the bigger fish, the best quality fish were main lake oriented because of that, blueback spawn going on or whatever. And so that's what I tend to focus on. But there was definitely little subtle things about each dock that you want to look for. And that's just something that, like I said, wherever you're at on a body of water, you just need to kind of sample, spend a lot, fish out on the point, fish on the steep stuff, fish on the ultra flat contour lines that have docks on them. Like those flat docks in the fall can be fire. You might, place like Lake Hartwell, this ultra shallow flat docks can really be a player. So it's just test it out and then make quick decisions on, okay, this is where I'm starting to get bit and try it in different parts of the lake.
That makes sense. And like you hear, so what's your take on like there's some people that swear by wooden docks or floating docks or metal docks. Well, where does that fall into your realm of decision making?
I mean, I think it's a big deal, like the wooden dock theory with, having algae on it and the bait fish. And I think definitely that has a, player effect to keep holding fish there. Stuff like brush and everything else. But really, you start to get on places like Smith Lake there's nothing but floating docks pretty much. You know what I mean? But you might have some old wooden docks in the back or way up the river and stuff like that. But I still tend to look at where they're at on the lake, so to speak, more so than what type of dock they are. Something like in the wintertime, though, or in the spring when you get those black floats and they start holding heat, now that's a whole different story. So it just kind of all depends on when and where you're fishing these docks, because they all play a different role throughout the year. But the bottom line is docks always hold fish, 100% of the year. They always do. Wintertime, springtime, fall, it doesn't matter. Summer, great time. I feel like now more than ever, people start to get away from it because it is more of a tedious job. It's like flipping grass. It's like, doing, and you get yelled at. And everybody's wanting to do, offshore forward facing sonar stuff when, who wants to go take, you get a couple casts at a dock and then you got to go all the way around and back to the next one. But at the end of the day, if you're in a tournament or you just want to catch some fish, there's always fish on docks.
Mm-hmm. I like the add on there with the black floating docks in the winter.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into, springtime, the black floats, the second to last dock or the last dock, or the dock that has the last bit of deep water on it, which is a big deal. That's all that pre-spawn stuff. And then you start going into summertime stuff, and it's the docks that tend to be on a steeper bank or a bluffy bank, stuff like that. Around points are always a big deal with a dock on it. Marina docks with a point that comes out underneath of them, big deal.
It just goes on forever.
Yeah. You can start breaking them down. You really do your map study and figure out, because once you start to get bit multiple bites on a certain type of dock, then you can start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. But it takes you time. Yeah, you got to put in your due diligence of just, you're going to fish a lot of docks without getting a bite.
What makes you the most mad about dock fishing is when you catch one on like a random flat, like the 15th dock in from a point, and it doesn't duplicate anywhere on the lake, but you'll catch like a 5-pounder off it, and you're like, what the heck? You try to run the same dock all around every point, and you're like, I give up.
Yep. Very true. And what I found, I feel like too, is like the docks hold more than just one. Like that dock, if you got a bite off of it, more than likely there's 2 to 5 to maybe even 10, who knows, that live on that dock, and they don't live on the one next to it or the one down from it. They like that one for a reason. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter. You found it. So
I have a question for you on that. When you get bit on that dock, can you tell by the way the fish bites if there's multiple fish underneath it, or do you just keep fishing it just to see?
If I'm like practicing for a tournament and I get a bite on it, like I'm just moving, and I try not to set the hook just because, you never know. We know that they could be a 1.5 pounder to a 5-pounder or whatever, they could be a big fish. So I don't want to chance. All I want to do is just know that there is life around that dock and keep moving. Now in a tournament, how you go about you positioning, and that's something that's really that I've had to take a long time to get used to doing, is boat positioning for each dock, because you start to get in a hurry, you get up to the dock too fast, and now you prop wash it. Like they could be on the front of the dock, the back corners of the dock. So you really got to start picking it apart and feel out where they're at. If you fish all day and you never got bit off the end of the dock, well, they're probably not there. They're up on the shallow side, or vice versa. They tend to use whatever time of the year certain parts of the dock. They're not always scattered throughout it. You do go to a spotted bass fishery, though, they're everywhere all the time. They're at the fronts of them, the backs of them, insides of out, swimming around. It doesn't matter. Yeah, they don't know where they want to be at. So it's a little trickier, but boat positioning.
They're my kind of bass. Okay. Well, with that being said, though, take one dock that has, just your average dock. How do you approach a dock to maximize, like, say there, that there's multiple fish from back to front? How do you approach that dock to maximize the amount of bites you'll get? Try to anyway.
Yeah, from my experience, usually when you catch one fish, more than likely that dock's done. Now, that's not to say that you can't catch more. right then and there. But usually what happens is it's no different than a school of fish offshore. Like you catch one and it kind of spooks those 3 or 4 fish that were around it. Like they know what's up when one gets ripped out of there. But at the same time, you could, I've heard stories that guys that have caught 3, 4, 5 fish off one dock. Like if you want to sit there long enough and see if they set back up, maybe that's the time of the year that, it doesn't affect them. But like kind of like Murray, there would be literally 5, 8 fish come out of a foot of water, with the one that I've hooked. They wouldn't follow it all the way to the boat, but they would come out of the dock. And so I knew, it was pretty much shot. And I think that happens whether we can see them or not. And so it's just a matter on if you want to sit there and wait kind of, or, move on and come back to that dock after they set up. I need some water.
Hey, go grab some.
Long-winded.
We can hold it down.
Good. No, we're good.
Anthony is asking about when you ring a jig off a pontoon boat.
No.
Have you ever noticed that helps the bite?
No.
Pretty much done.
Not. Yeah. I mean, you still fish the dock, right? But it is important to try to make
you got a water delivery.
Special delivery.
Yes.
Felicia to the rescue.
Thanks, honey.
Thanks, Mom.
Choking. Yeah, thanks, Mom.
Congrats, by the way, on little
Thank you.
Shryock on the way. Congrats.
Little turbo.
Little turbo.
Little turbo.
Where did that come about?
I don't know. Different story, different time.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Got it.
Terry. It's gonna be called Terry.
Terry the turbo.
That's right.
But yeah, hitting a dock, hitting a pontoon. Like those fish are really aware of their surroundings. They're used to boat traffic more than likely if they're around the dock. But I haven't got bit very many times after I, smoked a pontoon or something.
Yeah.
You try to be as cautious as possible.
There's nothing like tournament morning or like fun fishing, and it is so peaceful, and it's like sun's coming up, and then you just ring one off a pontoon and the whole neighborhood wakes up.
I don't even look up. I like look. You're like look down. Like
who did that?
What was that?
Terry, was that you?
Terry and Jerry. Oh, shoot.
Awesome. Oh.
But I mean, I've done it before, and it's like a dock that that you need to fish. Like there's special docks, and you roll up there and hit it off of it. Like,
yeah,
that's what we practice for.
That's right. That's right. Gong show. Oh man. So David Jong has another question here, asking about forward-facing sonar. Do you utilize that at all with docks?
Man, I think I do for like more so the depth in brush. But what I've learned is like you can't hardly see them half the time. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're just doing that solely to try to catch them, I feel like you're going to miss a pile of fish that you never would have known was there because they hide, just between whether it's pole docks or floating docks, in the springtime, they get up on those floats super tight. And so you might just go past, and if you want to scope up there or whatever, like you're not going to see them. And so it's one of those deals. Like I just learned to turn that thing off out of my mind. And like, maybe there's brush out in front of the dock, which is a big deal because, now that's there before you ever got to it, or could see the fish out in front of it. But as far as fishing them, like I'd have never seen those fish at Murray. I'd have never seen the fish. I fished docks at Hartwell last year in the open. I couldn't see those. So it's just like one of those things, maybe spotted bass or something, but I don't like to use it personally.
Interesting.
I use
you see stuff like
turn
that.
It off sometimes too. I don't.
Yeah,
like
do you turn all your electronics off, like sonar wise?
Sometimes, depending on the situation, like being shallow and stuff. I don't know. I'm also the guy that like puts on sunscreen and has to like wipe my hands completely off, like freaked out about scent on the baits. I don't know.
Sometime with the Berkeley crew will do that to you.
Yes. Yeah.
When you learn stuff like that, I mean,
like I work too dang hard just to have some dang, oil rubbed on my bait and not get a bite.
Ever since talking with Mark Sexton over there, my new thing now is I get to the lake. First thing I do when I put in is put my hands in the lake water. That's
really.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of like a superstition thing now because I've done it so many times. But like it's not a bad thing to do because you have all that scent on your hands. Like especially if you say you're doing stuff all day or different things you touch, like you're making coffee or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's a superstition. It's just a thing in my head. But
it's like of all the stuff we do and all the money we spend to get there, though, it's like the last thing I want to be doing is fishing with a bait that's for 30 minutes that I have sunscreen or like anything on it. Maybe you pump gas before you got to the lake, and the handle had stuff all over it. I don't know.
It's crazy. With sunscreen, like my routine when I guide now is as soon as I wake up, that's the first thing I do. Before anything else, the sunscreen goes on because I know I'm going to wash my hands like 6 times before I leave the house, so that scent is off my palms. And I even got to a point that I like put it on top of my hand and I rub them like this, so it's not on my on the bottom of my fingers. Like I almost never have sunscreen on like the bottom parts of my hand.
Yeah,
I've seen too many times where I put sunscreen on, rubbed it in that way, and not got bit for like the first 4 hours. I'm like,
wow,
yeah.
See, we could get those gloves off, Amazon or something. You just put those on, lather up, peel them off, throw them away.
Or even better, Neutrogena makes it like a deodorant stick style sunscreen that you never even have to touch, and it's good stuff.
See, that's what I do with the tube. Yeah, that's the move.
But then I would still do it because then I feel like after time, if I touch my face or whatever, and I touch the stick, it's going to be on the stick. Then I'm still, putting my hands in lake water. It all comes full circle.
Hands are always in the lake water. Like it has to happen.
You just got to catch the first fish, give him a little bear hug, and you're good for the rest of the day. You're good.
Got to get some slime on you.
Yeah. I mean, so with that being said, though, like going back to like turning electronics off and such, I don't know why for me, like going up shallow, that's like a confidence thing. I mean, maybe it's more just because I'm in the kayak and trying to be stealthy type of deals, turning everything off that can make noise. But, beyond that, do you do anything to try to be, quieter when you're fishing docks? Like, do you go a lot slower, that type of deal?
Yeah. Like I said, it took me a while and I'm still not perfect, or I don't feel like I'm that good at it because it's like you have to tell yourself to slow down. That's the biggest thing is like you tend to get in a hurry and then you round the corner and go to the next dock and what do? You kick the trolling motor on high because maybe you didn't catch them in between the docks. You're just catching them off the docks. Now you rush up to the next one. You get one cast while you're cruising up there. Next thing you know, your boat's almost to it. You know what I mean? And now you kind of already ruined that. So it's like my rule of thumb is trolling motors on 2 or 3 tops. And when I round the corner, you try not to make that sprint to the next dock. Like you try to just slow up.
So, and with the best comments.
Always the best comments. So Anthony Guy says, speaking of companies, rumor has it Clay Matthews with Clay Matthews being retired, Head and Shoulders is considering Fletcher.
I'm getting there. I need Head and Shoulders.
Are you getting that flow going? I see it coming out of the back of the hat.
I know it's only growing in the back and like a little. I don't know. It's getting that old hair. It only grows in certain spots.
Patchy.
You're getting that dad hair now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
I know all about that. I cut all my grays off today. Like I was getting bad. You'll see soon. You'll see soon.
Oh, I'm already there. They start popping out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Once you get one, you get 10.
Oh gosh,
wild. Yeah,
it's already there.
It's just a downhill slope. I'm already getting some.
It is.
I found some the other day, and I was like, here it comes. Life's over. Life is over. So getting back to the topic real fast. As much as I feel like we try to be quiet, which I think does play a factor, especially shallow. Like if you know you're around fish, like taking your time, being slow, trying to not slamming stuff on the bottom of your boat. Like you see guys, like especially you in your videos, sometimes you try to purposely lay rods down quietly or softly. That way you're not like making a ruckus type of deal. I think that definitely helps, but I think to a point, like fish are just like, if you get to a certain distance, they just know you're there. I mean,
Oh, they know you're there whether you're quiet or not. That's what I want to ask you, because you fish in a kayak, like, and I've been in a kayak, not like yours, but like just been out in a kayak, and I feel like, dude, you can be way, way sneak, because you just don't have the mass and size of the boat, presence,
Yep.
like you would a 21-foot spaceship rolling into their area. But what is it? They know you're there within what, 100 yards or something.
Something
much.
with the trolling motor, yeah. I feel like they feel that.
Oh,
it's like the same thing with they got to feel it before you see you.
Oh yeah, but it's kind of like those fish. It's like no matter what, there's going to be fish that are ready to bite, and there's fish that's never going to bite. Like we fish around fish all the time. I mean, literally with forward-facing sonar, we can see how many fish we fish around all the time. In tournaments, you have to catch 5, and it takes you, more times than not, it takes you all day to come across your best 5. Mm-hmm. And our stuff is around fish all the time, and they just
you're like, dang,
it's literally just a numbers game of coming across the ones that are, you caught them slipping that day.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time, those fish, 80% of them don't bite, 90% of them. So, and here we are, just like morons, just casting away.
My client the other day told me this interesting study out of California where they studied a pond, like put tags on every fish, and they found that 1/3 of the fish will bite multiple times, another third will bite once or twice, and then another third will never bite a bait ever.
Yeah. You got the super aggressive ones, kind of aggressive, and not at all. That's wild.
It's like, so there's 1/3 of the fish in the population that have probably never been caught that we just know nothing about,
and we're never going to catch them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you throw a net at them or something.
But that's what I think they're doing with some of those bass. They're like trying to get their
like
breeding
that Georgia program, right? Is it that one?
Yeah, something like that, where they're breeding like the
Titan
more
bass.
aggressive. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
They're working some magic down there, son. They have a lake down there.
Everywhere.
Dude, it is, the stories and pictures I've seen from this place are absurd. So they have one of their lakes there, because it's like, this is like one of a private fishery type of deal. You can't like have parties or anything like there, or media events, because trust me, we've tried. Only like select few people have been able to go there. And what I was told though is like they literally have one lake that is females only. Like they only have big females in the lake, and I don't know exactly how it works, but essentially they are trying to build up the characteristics in bass that are only like to get them more aggressive, and they take those genes, pass them on to make a more aggressive caliber of bass, and then sell the genes. It's crazy. It's like Jurassic Park type stuff is what's going on.
We suck at fishing, so we have to have more aggressive fish because of our abilities to catch them. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how it should be.
No, all they need to do is some DNA replication and whatever it is, gene theory, and take the genes from a smallmouth in a spot and just kind of implement them, just like the aggressive behavior, into every other fish, and they'll be good because they'll always eat.
We just got to train them to think live bait bad, artificial good.
Yes.
I think we need to take care of the fisheries that we got, and it would be, you know what I mean? If we would do like what Texas has done across a lot of the Southeast or whatever, but that's a different story. It'll get there. Hopefully. It's a whole nother.
That's a whole year of episodes in itself, dude. Oh God, that's open a whole can of worms. I mean, we've talked about that several times in this show, and it always leaves me going to bed frustrated that night.
Yeah. Because no matter, you're going to wake up and go fish on a fishery that has a lot more potential, or you know what I mean. That we'll stock a bunch of striped bass and whatever else, but we won't touch the bass population.
Apparently, some of the Titan bass were stocked in Gville a few years ago.
Maybe that's why the Gville's been on the rise again.
Because wasn't last fall like bonkers there?
It's been bonkers for like the past Well, ever since we stopped going, the Elite
Yeah,
Series.
that's why. That's why.
Typically how it happens.
I mean, we literally had like a Gunnersville tournament. The one year we had the Classic and the Elite there in one year.
Yeah.
I fished like 4 events there or something. But then it was like the very next year, FLW or MLF were there and they smashed them. Like everybody had 17 or 18 pounds. So
Crazy.
Yeah.
But
pretty wild.
yeah, really fast going back to your point about the kayak thing. I have an interesting story
Yeah.
from this past weekend. We think we could be all this sneaky on bass. I think in certain situations you can. But so we were on Cayuga and Alex Rudd, Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
He came up for the event on Cayuga, and especially in these crystal clear fisheries, but we think that we can sneak up on bass. Well, he found a place on the lake that he calls me and he goes, "What the hell is this? Is this Jurassic Park?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's just like what's living in New York, man." Like, but he's like, "I can't get him to bite or anything." And it's like you've seen those fish, like when they're about getting ready to spawn type of deal, like when they're impossible to eat. Yeah.
Just up there sunbathing, like
and they're like this. They're just so fat and just.
Yeah, that's one of the things he said. I mean, we got to get him back on the show here soon to talk about it because it was a fun trip. But he's like, dude, he goes, I'm looking at like a 7-pounder with her back out of the water. I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, good luck catching that, dude. Like in a couple of days, she's gonna be spawning probably. But he's like, I'm gonna risk it. Like, I mean, there's winning fish here. Like, I'm looking at a 30-pound bag on a dock, and he shows up. And I hear about it after, obviously, because we can't talk during the tournament. But I hear after the day he calls me. He goes, dude, I pull up like maybe 50 to 70 yards away from this dock. I am so far away from this dock because I'm going to start there. And I'm sitting there. He's like, I'm texting Bethany, his wife. Good morning. I look up. There's a 7-pounder staring at me in my kayak 50 yards away from the dock. They came off the dock to check him out.
Oh, swam out there.
Yeah. And he's like,
my.
This is gonna suck. He has video. It's crazy because like it's super cool. I love watching these fish. What's cool about our fish is that they're that clear. But he has iPhone. He put his iPhone in the water and was filming the bass follow his kayak as he went down the stretch of docks.
I'm never gonna catch them.
They're just chilling.
Like, where are you going? Yeah, swimming around.
I hate it when smallmouth will do that when it's like slick calm and all of a sudden you're sitting over top of them and you'll see like a ball of them rise like 15 feet below your boat and just sit there and taunt you. And you'll drop them, they'll follow it down, and they'll stop like a foot above the bait, and then you reel it up and they'll chase it to the boat and stop and then go back down. You're like, you freaking pricks.
Well, that was what happened to you guys at Oahe, wasn't it?
What was it?
Weren't they doing that at Oahe?
Oh, that was. I think they just done seen every bass boat in person fishing every point. Oh, but they do that, yeah. Well, the thing about Oahe was they would be so tucked to the bottom, you would never see them on your forward-facing sonar. And so you would think that you looked, and all of a sudden they just come to look at the boat. And they literally come off the bottom or come from behind, and there would be 20, 30 bass sitting there under your boat. But at that point, it's like, they usually don't bite, or that they bit in practice. As a week went on, those fish that bit, like you were literally catching them, they'd have 2 or 3 hook holes, and you're 70 miles from the boat ramp. Yeah, there wasn't a big population of fish. Not saying that there's not big fish there, but I'm just saying like overall, it was like the same fish were getting picked on, the entire event. I like getting up.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, getting up, what Andy was saying about the fish, you make a noise or something, you get up shallow and just step on your boat, like stomp on it, thud, thud, thud. And it's like 10 seconds, there'll be like 3 big black smallmouth come out of nowhere.
Hey, how are you?
I'm serious, dude. They just like out of nowhere, they just like will surround you. And like I just trolling motored like 100 yards and haven't seen one. And then you just start thudding on your boat. Here they come. Not going to catch them, but you see them.
That tournament I was laughing so hard. One, about Matt Robertson, but 2, watching Andy and I were laughing at this one big time live.
Tyler.
No, Hamner sitting crisscross applesauce on his
Oh,
front deck.
I thought
dragging a
that was
Carolina rig.
Revet.
Oh, it was Revet. You're right. Never mind. Yeah, that.
Yeah, I missed
I
out
still
on the
laugh
Carolina
about-
rig deal.
Yeah, he's just chilling there. He goes, "Oh, there's a bite." Stands up, takes his time, reels in. Yep, still there. I'm like, what?
You put it in the live on, you go back and like sit down on the front deck and make a cast.
Yeah.
Like we're for a long day.
His back was hurting or something, wasn't it? Didn't he
I
do
think so,
something?
but it was just so funny because he's like, "Well, I
Yeah.
got to work this bait slow anyways." He's like,
I wonder
It was
why his
good.
back was sore from running on that place.
Oh, I'm sure it beat the
Yeah.
kidneys out of you.
Yeah, I mean, as bad as you want it, it just depends on the situation you got yourself in. Is all it was.
right.
Yeah,
But I mean,
so-
on that topic of like how curious these bass are and like making noise, like going even back to Anthony Geis's comment about ringing a jig off a pontoon.
Mhm.
Have you seen some of like Rob Matsuro's stuff where he swims with the smallmouth in St. Lawrence?
I've seen some of like on Instagram and stuff. It's pretty crazy. Like they're
It's-
curious.
Yeah.
Super curious.
You won't see anything and you'll jump down there and it's like they come out of nowhere. Like Pete Glusick last week on our show was talking about that. He's like, yeah, I was floating a stretch, couldn't catch crap, and the kids started jumping in the water and my fish finders lit up with smallmouth everywhere and we started catching them.
Unreal.
Yeah. It's like, all right, you're on the jump in the water pattern, Pete.
Yeah.
Chesapeake.
No
You
kidding.
gotta take a bath.
You gotta get out there.
He's no
splash
stranger
around.
to taking a bath either. So
You start doing donuts in your boat.
Well, dude, it's got me so curious though. Like, I want to sit there and just start diving with these fish in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well, I mean,
feel like
you're
you can
up
learn so
there.
much.
You live right by it. I would.
I don't even have to go up there.
Like, you say the
Yeah.
noise thing. There's a certain lake here in Western New York that I've heard about guys from your neck of the woods coming up to, and literally they'll get on like a shoal and do circles to fire up the smallmouth. I'm sure you know what lake I'm talking about. And that they would catch like 20, 22 pounds of smallmouth in the
There's only
summer.
like 2 lakes in Western.
Oh
New
yeah,
York.
I'll name it then. It's Chautauqua Lake.
Yeah.
Like
It's already a dumpster fire. You can you can put it out there.
but like but I've heard of guys like the Ohio guys coming up here and like doing circles
Really?
on shoals.
I've never heard of that.
Getting
No, I've
smallmouth
done-
to go.
I've seen them do it on the Tennessee River,
Yeah.
like over a school, like sit there and try to stir it up,
Yeah.
like in the
There
middle
was
of a
a-
tournament.
Yeah, I think it was Ott Defoe on was it Athens Lake? Some lake in Texas where he won it on.
That's that
And he was
one.
like,
Yeah,
keep
won it.
driving, drive. He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
and then he get a
fire 'em
bite.
yeah. But
The funny thing is like putting your boat putting your boat on the trailer at the ramp, and there's always like crappie fishermen or something there.
mhm.
And like the one that I put in a lot, there'll always be someone crappie fishing, and it's so funny. So I'll put my boat on. I'll tell them, "All right, we'll get ready," and they'll be like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You're about to catch some," and I run it up on the trailer, and by the time I'm strapping my boat down, they're already hooked up once or twice with crappie. But they, when they're sitting there, they wouldn't catch a thing. Like if there was no movement. Super crazy.
It's funny how that is. Where you think that you should be quiet or not disruptive, or actually maybe being disruptive.
The fish that
Might
are
be
used
thinking-
to it, like
Yeah.
those fish live on a boat ramp, so they probably, are pretty used to it, and they're waiting for that ambush. For something to happen, everything's gonna get kicked up, and they're gonna eat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're probably blowing out like whatever bait fish they're waiting for that's like hiding in the algae underneath the dock or
Everything,
Mhm.
yeah. And they just know there's a feeding opportunity every time a boat gets loaded. So
Yep.
unreal.
That's awesome. So to kind of round out this doc conversation here, it's actually been pretty.
We done a
insightful.
big long circle.
Yeah, it never stays on track.
It.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Never
That's my
stays
fault.
you can just blame me. That's fine. Take the blame.
This is what the premise of the show is. I think Pete last week we stayed on topic for maybe 10 minutes, and then we
Yeah.
never talked about the topic again for the rest of the show. So it was all good. But just from your point of view, like if you had, say, 3 baits, to go on fish any dock in the country, what are your staples?
Yeah. So my first 2 have got to be, wacky rig general, and then like a 1/2 ounce jig, just a Berkeley skipping jig, whatever trailer, just depending on what time of the year. Those are my two favorites. And then obviously like just a normal Texas rig that you can do like a Creature Hog or whatever. But I'm going to lean towards those two first. I feel like those are the two big fish getters. You know, obviously like the time of the year that you can get bit on a jig. I would much rather skip a jig than throw a wacky worm. And I, you know, even at Murray, I caught some fish on a jig. The deal was it had to be windy, because if it was slick calm, that something about that profile at the time of the year, you know, post spawn, they just kind of get away from that jig. And so just knowing what time of the year it is and when to, you know, basically use those baits is going to be a big deal. But slick calm, it's hard to beat the wacky worm. And then, like I said, if it's before the pre-spawn, it's cold or whatever, a jig is my go-to.
Are you a short leader, long leader guy when it comes to wacky?
I use a pretty good leader. I probably reel it down into the spinning reel twice. So the knot gets in and then 1, 2. Because my thing is when you get it in there, it depends on how you're fishing it. You know, like if there's certain types of docks, you can get away with a shorter leader, but I just don't want that knot being anywhere near a post or whatever that structure's on. Because I mean, I would much rather get away with a longer leader, because it's going to be abrasion resistance, because I'm using 15-pound X5 braid to 10-pound Berkeley trilene fluorocarbon. So the biggest thing is that fluorocarbon's abrasion resistant. It's going to slip and slide. If that 15-pound braid hits wood or metal, it doesn't take long to break it. You know, people think braid like, oh, it's strong. It is strong, but it's not strong when it starts getting around, you know, wood, rock, stuff like that. It's going to nick it. It's going to break. So that's my biggest thing is I don't want it. I want to be able to let those fish do their deal, run the dock, whatever, and me still be able to get them back out of it.
We like a 7-foot medium fast spinning rod.
7-foot medium heavy. Yep. Yeah, Fantasista X. Yep. Yeah, I don't do the mediums. That medium heavy is what I mean, you're using, you know, not on a jig, I'm using a 7.3 medium heavy.
Right.
17-pound fluorocarbon straight up.
Jack the face.
But no, the spinning stuff, it's a pretty big deal just to have that. It's parabolic, but it's still got enough backbone, you know, to put pressure on them to get them out from underneath of it.
Right. And I'm assuming like a Fusion 19 finesse wide gap. I think that's what it's called.
Yep. No, I like that weedless one. You can take and cut that deal off too if you don't want it on there. Like you feel like you don't need it all the time, because there's some scenarios you don't, you know. It kind of gives it more of a natural look, but other than that, yeah, you're good to go. That thing sits in there pretty good too.
Right. Yeah, I know. There's a few amount of guys that rave about that finesse wide gap, but then there's, I think it's Cox and Keith Carson that are rave about the drop shot look.
Yeah. They make a lot of good
they're
stuff.
crazy about that baby bass max in general. Like when I tell you, we had that media event a few weeks back for the new Fenwick rods. We had some Berkeley stuff there, and Keith was there, and there was not a lick of baby bass max scent generals available for anybody the entire trip.
Carson?
Yes, he took them in the first 5 minutes. The whole box, just dumped it out, took all the baby bass. That man's crazy. Like him fishing deep is like 20 foot and letting a baby bass general sink down 20 feet. And it worked for him. I was like,
it works.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Where was that at?
Oneida.
Oh, shoot. That's
We
cool.
caught the crap out of him, man. It was pretty good.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Still not as good as Champlain, but.
No, it's not Champlain. It's a nice 10-15 minute ride from the Syracuse airport, so it made it pretty easy. Yeah. It's definitely not Champlain. But man, honestly, thank you again coming on. I always got a seat on this show.
I'm the backup guy.
You're not the backup guy. You're just like, hey, Hunter's always game. Let's Jess bailed on us tonight. Let's just see if Hunter's bored. Yeah. But no, dude, seriously, we learn a lot every time you're on the show. So we appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. And talking about X2, I heard Andrew talking about that. I just got back from, so I pre-fished St. Clair, went all the way over to Ontario, St. Lawrence River, 2,500 mile round trip for just to look at these ponds, which is kind of silly, but hopefully it pays
Did you
off.
cut through Canada when you went St. Clair into New York?
Didn't.
Oh,
I didn't want to mess with it.
Oh, it's easy. They won't even bother you. Like they just.
I didn't. Yeah.
Just
I didn't have my updated passport with me. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Didn't even
could have
think
gone to
about
Simcoe.
No.
Nope. Nope. No thanks.
No. But anyhow, talking about the batteries, I didn't camp. I hoteled it all week just because I didn't know how long I was going to be at each place. Dude, the whole like charging your stuff, like I think I got my batteries charged like 3 of the 7 days that I fished. Just because you don't have any outlets. You know what I mean? Like in this place, oh, there's an outlet here, but it's 200 yards away that I could be parked at. Like it's just a complete mess anytime you're trying to stay on the road somewhere. And so like for my batteries to go that long or days in between, and I run the power pole charge too, it makes a huge difference because I'm idling and graphing a lot, but still it's like I don't people will say, oh, well, the X2s are expensive, blah, 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 blah. But like, dude, when you go to some place that you've saved up money to do, or you get out there that week and your stuff doesn't work, how much money would you spend to have your stuff, be flawless and be working? Like, but we'll go spend, $300 on a rod and reel combo and, we got junk batteries and we got 5 electronics, but we got junk batteries. Like, let's get back to the root. The deal here that supplies it all.
Or spend $20,000 on 5 graphs, mega live or whatever forward facing, and 360 and a hydro wave.
I see it all the time.
And then they'll throw a Group 27 cranking battery in the boat and run it all up. Why is my battery dead after 2 hours?
Yeah. I got to go back to Walmart and get this thing replaced.
Mm-hmm.
I've already been there and done that. That's why I'm preaching it now. Mm-hmm. I've already lived that.
If you don't start with that, I mean, you ain't using all your fancy gadgets you want to use.
Well, it doesn't work as good either. And I don't think people realize their electronics don't work as properly when they don't have the adequate amount of power to them, which is kind of a big deal when you're wanting everything to run on all cylinders, especially forward-facing sonar and your side imaging. And, well, I can't see out 120 feet or 140 feet. Well, it's because it doesn't have enough juice, like a flashlight, basically. Mm-hmm. If you only got, your batteries are almost dead in a flashlight, it doesn't shine as far. Same way with your electronics.
Yep. Yeah, we had a really good episode. People want to check that out with Bass Fishing Electronics, Steve Estes over there. We talked exactly about that. We've had some episodes with Sean from X2 on here as well, talking exactly about that. It's a real thing, guys. I mean, if you're not investing in the components in your rig to get on the water, you're not going to be able to go use that fancy new rod and reel that you just got.
Yeah.
You're going to be confined to the bank. That's a great point.
Save yourself the hassle.
Exactly.
But no, I just want to throw that out there because it always amazes me how much that stuff has come from when I first started fishing from having all the issues with a used boat to, I didn't have the money to have the batteries and stuff, and I'm trying to do it. But realizing now that you could have made that investment and been done with it and had those batteries for years, but
and actually really saved money, honestly, in the long
saved money. Yeah. Saved money and saved headache and hassle and, wasted practice days because you're in the service yard and this happened and that happened. And I've come a long way with that stuff. Andrew, you know that all too well, being a guide, like your equipment has to work.
Yeah. I remember I think it was the first day that I decided I was going to guide, I instantly ripped out the 29 lead acid I had in my boat, and I instantly went to a 31 AGM. I was like, I don't have the money for this because I'm broke, but I'm spending the money just so my electronics in my boat will start when I need it to at noon. So and it justified. Then once I get X2s in the boat, I'm like, I'm never looking back. They're incredible. So
that's a dang fact. Well, dude. Tournaments coming up, obviously, but anything else the folks should look out for?
I don't know. We got 3 northern events. I'm pretty excited. Yeah. Well, that's not till later in the year. That's not.
Yeah.
till
When is
October.
that supposed to? When is the little one supposed to come around?
October.
October. Oh,
Yeah. So it's good.
Great time
Good
of year.
timing. Yeah.
tell it to wait for the 25th. We'll be pals.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Same birthday.
That's right. That's right.
I like it.
Heck
yeah.
well,
I think it'll be early October. So.
she can wait a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But
Yeah.
dude, seriously, congrats again. That's awesome.
Thank
Happy for
you.
you guys. And
Yeah.
thank you again for always being game to jump on here.
Oh, I'm ready. At any point, you guys just give me a call. Even if I'm fishing, I'll be on.
All right, tournament day. We got live stream from the lake.
Maybe, yeah, we'll live stream it.
No,
Live stream fishing.
you already said, give me a call. I'm on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
No,
You're on Bass Live, and Hunter's like, hey, so sorry guys. So you're saying, guys,
I'll probably fish better talking anyhow.
all right, man.
Good deal.
We'll let you go here. Appreciate it as
Awesome.
always.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Hunter. Oh man, that's good. Dude, speaking of Hunter was talking about hotels. Have you seen the stuff with Jordan Lee and his hotel in St. Clair?
No, but I mean, the last place I'd want to stay in a hotel is in Detroit. So, yeah.
Talking about sketchy, man. But dude, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like his dry humor, but I just find it freaking hilarious. Like, if you guys haven't seen this yet, I don't know if he's posted on Instagram, but I know he's posted on TikTok. It is so funny. Where this he's basically trying to charge his boat and rig and tackle and everything, and this lady from the hotel basically kicks him out, kicks him off the property, but he moves 10 feet across the way to the other hotel and he can park there. They're like, yeah, you can park here. It's funny. You just have to watch. I couldn't explain it and do it its justice, but it is,
Oh my gosh.
it is hilarious.
Wow.
Oh, it's good stuff. By the way, that St. Clair event for them seems to be going pretty well. Some big weights.
Yeah, not bad. They've been catching what, like 20 to 22 pounds a day, I think I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, like decent transition. You know, it's obviously not going to be St. Lawrence weights, but at least decent.
Yeah, those St. Clair fish are different. They're long, lean, and mean. And when you start getting out, because I think it's the way St. Clair is, it's shallow and there's a lot of current. And then when you get out to like, grass, they're just chasing perch around and gobies, right? The gobies are easy to find because they don't really have anything to hide in. I don't know how much rock is actually in St. Clair compared to like.
I'm sure there's like boulder piles and stuff like that. I mean, again, I don't know for sure. I mean, I think it would be cool to, we should get old Benny Nowak on the show for our fantasy fishing live, to kind of give us a nice little breakdown of the lake, because from my understanding, it's fishing a lot of grass lines that you're looking for, like, hard bottom things of that nature. But it'll be interesting. We got a comment here. Anthony, the tourney for me did not go well. We'll leave it at that. I choked on my home lake. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in another episode.
You know what we have to do, Bailey? And maybe in September we can figure this out. We all have to make that 3-hour drive to St. Clair and stay on the Canadian side, not in Windsor, but somewhere on the Canadian side, and go fish out there.
Can we just go to Simcoe instead? It's closer.
Oh, God, Simcoe is such a bear to figure out, though.
No, we got buddies.
It's fair. We could probably do that.
I don't know. It'd be fun, though.
No, actually, Simcoe's further than St. Clair. St. Clair's like 3.5 from my house. I think Simcoe's almost 4. Because you have to go through the GTA to get the Simcoe. And if you time it wrong, you're going to get stuck in 3 hours of traffic.
We got Mr. X2 in the house. He just missed the whole X2 plug.
Yeah.
Again, guys, a lot of cool stuff coming for X2. So keep alert. Keep on. We did actually, I brought up today, someone was asking about our X2 code. Just as a reminder, if you guys want to save some money on your batteries, we have that link down in the description. You can always take advantage of it. Save yourself some money on premium batteries. As Hunter said, make that upfront investment and you'll thank yourself over the long run. Definitely. I mean, the last thing I want to do is seeing some of these guys that literally do it for a living in the pro tournament trails that are being towed in because their batteries aren't working. No bueno. No bueno at
Soon
all.
they'll have X2s in their boat.
I mean, dude, most guys that don't have a battery deal have X2s in their boat anyways. I mean, that speaks for itself, right?
It works. Yep.
That's right. Well, dude, Andy, anything coming up on the horizon for you, my friend?
Finishing up this week of guide trips, then have a little vacation, family vacation, so that'll be fun. We're going up to the Adirondack Mountains for a few days, and then I come home and I have, I think, 5 days in a row in the Finger Lakes, and then I get ready for the first somewhat big like local tournament on Erie with my buddy Billy, and then then a bunch more guide trips through the end of July. I actually booked out July. I didn't plan on it, but I ended up getting like a dozen days or so in July, so that's cool.
That's awesome. Heck
yeah,
yeah,
and then
man.
if people want to book guide trips now, you're looking basically August and September. My October is just about full. So, yeah.
When are you going to start booking steelhead trips?
They're already started. I've got, I think, like 10 or 12 on the books for November and December. So those will be probably pretty full pretty soon, too.
That's awesome. Get in while you can, folks. He's a hot commodity now.
I guess so.
Dude, he's going to be too cool for this show. He's going to ditch us all.
No. I will always make time for this. So.
You better. I'm screwed if you're gone, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
I'm gone half the time as it is now. June, July are like horrible for me. It's the Andy show in June, July.
I guess. And Sean, we have we're in the midst of like our third wave and coming into a full moon. There's more spawners coming still. So we have a lot of like small males on beds right now. In the last couple of days, I've caught a couple big pre-spawn females because that full moon's coming and the water temp is still right. Normally, we're like 2.5 weeks behind. So, yeah. Anthony, also, if you want to book it, we should probably figure it out now because my next year's starting to fill up already. So, just throwing it out there. Yeah.
just a little humble brag for you.
Yeah, I had I think the other day I had a guy book an entire week for next May. Yeah.
Damn. So somebody likes Andy.
Yeah.
Somebody likes the captain.
Yeah, it's I mean, I guess I just give a good service, you know. We put people on fish.
Oh, you heard him, folks. You heard him. Anthony Geist is signing up for 2 weeks after he hears that. That's incredible.
Good boat talks.
Somebody clip that. Somebody clip that.
Andy Likey, no, in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten like a lot of compliments, and it's really cool. They're like, "Yeah, we've been out with a lot of other guides, and like, guide will just throw the fish on the floor and just keep doing what he's doing." They're like, "No, like you take time, you teach us what you're doing, like how you're rigging the baits, you're taking the fish off for us, and you're really like working on the techniques and stuff." Yes, if you want, it's extra.
And he does offer sunscreen massages, he said.
It's double. So, but yeah, like we try to make the experience the best we can while being very educational based. And it doesn't help when you're putting 30, 50, sometimes 80 smallmouth in the boat on a daily basis. So it's been fun. Oh yeah. That was a fun trip with
awesome,
Jake.
Man.
Jake was one of my first clients ever. And I think we had 100 fish day on the Niagara River. It was insane. Awesome. Yeah.
Heck yeah. I got to see Jake at the at registration from the Hobie last week. Good dude. Highly recommend, folks. Give him a follow. But coming up, Andy, I mean, we got July 4th next week. So, guys, I know it's been a tough month for episodes for us, but we've been trying to get episodes out where we can. So we appreciate you guys always showing up. It's been a tough month with work travel. We have iCast coming up, and then next Tuesday night is July 4th. So we're not going to be doing Tuesday Night Live next week. We'll put out a recorded episode for the morning that day, so it won't be live. Just a heads up. So with that, I think the week after that is iCast. So there will be another 2 weeks of no lives. We'll try to get an episode out a week. That way we're keeping up to with you guys. But this Friday, we have Terry Battisti, Bass Fishing Archives, coming on. We're going to be talking big bass stories. We're going to be talking some of the wildest things, bass fishing history-wise, because Terry is a foundation of knowledge. Him and Ken Duke have an amazing podcast called the Big Bass Podcast, which Ken Duke gave me a stern talking to on our Minn Kota trip, which actually
That sounds like Ken.
yeah, which we'll get into a little bit more about that. But we haven't had Ken on, and I was trying to be respectful because Bass Talk Live always gets Ken on, and Ken's a busy man, has his own show. But we're gonna get Ken Duke on the show. He got mad.
That'd be a good one.
He got mad. He's like, he's very disappointed I didn't get him on the show because Ken, I am fortunate to have as a great friend, as a mentor of mine, if you will. So we're gonna get Ken on, but this Friday we'll have Terry Battisti on. A very huge foundation of knowledge, and it's gonna be a lot of fun because Terry's a riot. Got to fish with Terry a little bit in Florida, so look forward to that episode, guys. It'll be probably less educational, like tonight we're talking with Hunter, ins and outs of dock fishing. It'll be just like a lot of stories, some cool stuff that you probably haven't heard anywhere else but the Big Bass Podcast. So if you're not
Friday show story time. I love story time episodes.
Which, speaking of story time, not that I'm going to go into story time. We have story time episodes coming up with episode 400 on the horizon. It's sneaking up on us. It's 382.
I was to say, I think we're like 18 or 17 away, which is crazy.
Yeah. Sneaking up. So probably this fall will be
8
episode
weeks
400.
Away. 8 weeks away, roughly.
Oh yeah,
9 weeks. So September.
Oh man.
Like
all right, what we'll do, folks, is we'll start planning some things. We're obviously going to be giving away a bunch of stuff. So once we have it figured out, let's blow this thing up. We'll make it a big party. But as we get closer, we'll put some more information out. We'll try to get some sponsors in on it, giving away a bunch of big prize packages to you guys. Now that I'm back here, we got some orders for hats and things that came through. Appreciate you guys supporting the brand. There are a bunch of hats still available on the website. We have a bunch of apparel you guys can check out. But really quick, Andy, speaking of Minn Kota trip, brand new Ultrex Quest.
Yeah, I want one. I'll wait a year, though.
Baller, dude.
I'll wait a year, but I want one.
Why would you wait a year? Just get one now.
Because I don't have the money to buy it.
I'm only messing with you. Dude, I will say, though, I am severely impressed. I mean, obviously there's power people talk about, right? And their boats going 4 miles an hour and all that. But, dude, when I got to use this thing, I literally had to keep looking down because, one, I couldn't hear the dang thing, so I didn't know if I was moving. I'd have to look down and make sure we were moving because it was so freaking whisper quiet. I was severely impressed. And there's some more modes on it, like drift mode, which I think is really cool, that you can control your drift speed and you mark it with a couple different waypoints, and it controls your drift at the speed you want, and like from one waypoint to another.
Oh, that'd be awesome for guiding for me on like somewhat windy days. Just keep the bow pointed, and I can just sit there and drink my coffee as people catch fish.
And when you're done with it, you can click a button that restarts your drift for you. Don't have to do anything. Yeah, it's freaking sweet. So go, folks, check that out. Folks at Minn Kota did a great job. But beyond that, I guess we have Terry Battisti on this Friday, and the next Tuesday Night Live will be the After iCast. And I have to double check that again, but we have some pretty cool folks lined up the next coming weeks. Pretty legendary, if that gives anybody a hint. So some fun times coming up. Appreciate y'all. Andy, anything coming up for the Lure Lab that people should check out?
Ooh, I'm still trying to figure out what episode I want to do this week. I got a couple things in the plans, but we did just have Nick Kuzvis on, who's a Northern Hammer. If you haven't checked it out, we talked about the Okashira head, and that was a really good one. So you want to go back. Yeah. In the last 2 weeks, we've gone kind of smallmouth heavy with the fluff ball and the Okashira head. And I think after this dock talk, we might go to a dock technique. So
spoon.
We'll see. Spoon will be a good one. We got
a bigger spoon. Too. Big one.
So big one. Yes.
I knew it.
Or dice, like the dice would be a fun one if I could figure out somebody to get on and talk about the dice. The hairy dice.
Know.
So
you could do Koya. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Koyo. I don't know. But there's
trying.
There's so many different baits and techniques that we want to talk about. Like I've yet to experiment with like poop baits, right? Like I got them sitting here that I want to figure out.
Missile Baits is coming out with one.
Yeah, it looks just like the cover scat. So we'll see. Did you do popper yet? We have not done a true popper episode yet, but I did go like deep into a topwater episode where I broke down like when and where she should throw what
It's
type
coming.
of topwater. It is, yes. I just love popper fishing. So
yes, Andy's a popper man. But Andy, tonight was a lot of fun. Big shout out again to Hunter. Guys, if you're not following Hunter, please do watch his YouTube channel. It's awesome. Him and Felicia are power couple of the fishing industry. But check it out. Appreciate y'all as always, and we'll see you on Friday. Peace.